Our main name was Superman. That was every ship had a name. Ship, pretty ship in the Navy. It had a clipper bow, and it wasn't like the other cruisers. And it was a beautiful ship and didn't have much armament, but it was fastest thing in the fleet. And President Roosevelt used it as his ship of state. That's where.
Did he really?
That's whenever he came, when he got in the Navy or went somewhere, well, he used Indianapolis. Why weren't they at Pearl Harbor?
Yeah.
Well, I wasn't aboard, of course, but I talked to a man that was aboard. They were in Hawaii with a fleet, and they got a call to go to another island with a detachment of Marines to move the Marines. And they were in such a hurry to get these Marines detached till they didn't even get all the crew back aboard the Indianapolis before it took off. And coming back, they got word that Pearl Harbor was under attack, not to return to the island. And this guy said that he thought it was a bunch of bull and wasn't very excited until the captain of the Indianapolis told him to throw all paint, all flammable stuff, and anything that burned overboard. And he said, here came the president's wooden bed and chairs. And when they threw it over, he said he believed that we were under attack. We were the flagship of the Fifth Fleet. Okay. We carried Admiral Spruance.
Oh, okay.
And when you're with the Admiral, well, you know, you're there. And at Okinawa, well, we went up and down Shalinet. Yeah. Well, the day before the invasion, we got hit by a suicide plane. I was down one morning in the mess hall, and directly as I had my tray, over the loudspeaker said, "Attention all hands, man your battle stations, man your battle station." You could tell the nervous voice that was coming. Well, I just dropped my tray on the table and ran up the toward the hatch and then on the deck and headed forward for the battle station. Just as I got on the main deck, I saw this plane. I thought it was going to hit me, you know, just out of the corner of my eye, and I heard it coming in. And about that time, boom, it hit the stern right on the port side. That ship's 18 feet from the waterline.
Okay.
Two torpedoes came down. One missed the ship. The other one went down through the mess hall, through one of the tables where everybody's sitting.
Oh, gee. Went
down 9 decks and exploded and blew that ship up. And when it came down, the water washed the deck. We were going to Mare Island to be repaired. As we went under the Golden Gate Bridge, there's a strong current, and it caught the bow of that ship on the wrong side. If it hadn't been just the instant him giving that wheel all that it had to the starboard and full power on the engines we had, we nearly ran aground.
Oh, right?
Just barely did swing that thing back around into the current before we ran aground. I kind of wish now we had.
You'd been better off.
But then got back aboard. They called me back early, everybody. They said to come in, we're going to have gunnery practice up and down the coast of the United States. That's what we expected. So they finished our dry dock about 2 to 3 weeks quicker than they said it's going to take. So they ran us across the bay and put us over there at Hunter's Point and loaded this big box aboard us. Well, I was standing there, brought it aboard, and they put it on the main deck, quarterdeck there, and had Marine Guard, and then they had another kind of a box deal that they were bringing in, and they took it up and put it in the Admiral's quarters.
How big was that second box?
No, 2 men could carry it. It wasn't too big, about 5-gallon size maybe or something. Of course, we didn't know anything. We wasn't too excited because we just thought we was taking on something to be transported to where we were going to stop. And that's what we did. The only thing is all under Marine Guard, and whenever we headed out, instead of having gunnery practice, we had flank speed 32 knots out from underneath the Golden Gate Bridge, and I headed to Hawaii or somewhere. We didn't know where we was going. The crew did. Come to find out, we had the atomic bomb.
Yeah.
And I leaned up against the box and talked to the Marine guard 2 or 3 different days. And we were, we were going, that old cruiser was just, we averaged 29.5 knots.
Wow.
Average. We still hold the world record for a surface vessel between here and Guam. Had no escort, we didn't have anything, didn't need one at that speed.
Yeah.
Well, a lot of scuttlebutt. What in the world have we got that this is important? And, you know.
I bet you had all kinds of stuff.
Oh, there was kind of a story, and the best one that I really believed might be true was that it was a big box of scented toilet paper for General Douglas MacArthur. Because if you knew MacArthur, you knew that they'd do it for him if he wanted it. And about the time we were going on the bridge, headed out with that bomb, they detonated the first atomic bomb in New Mexico.
So they hadn't even set off
Hadn't
the first
even
one.
set off.
I didn't know that.
I didn't either.
No.
But I found that out later, and that seems to be the truth.
So
They wasn't for sure it even going to work whenever we got it board, but it did. And boy, we went over and we delivered that to Tinian.
Tell me something about the unloading of that.
Well,
Anything
we
unusual?
nearly had a disaster. They had a cargo net. They came down. They put that box on this cargo net. Had the crane, and raised it, gradually taking it across to put on this barge, and the rope slipped on the pulley somewhere.
Yeah.
And it dropped, looked like 2 or 3 feet. Man, scared everybody to death. I don't know what it would have done, and probably killed somebody in the barge, because I think they had it back right over the barge.
You knew it wasn't the kind of box you drop overboard.
That's right. So then we went to Guam, which was just a few miles, and got supplies. And then we headed for the Philippines to join the battleship Idaho for gunnery practice and start maneuvers for the invasion of Japan. And we thought it was unusual to be by ourselves, because we always had vessels with us, destroyers or something.
Yeah.
About the second night out, I had midnight duty, watch. So I went to the bridge to stand watch midnight, and I was to put on the phones for the engine room phones. That was my duty for that night. Instead, I was about to take the phones, and all of a sudden, wham! The explosion went off, and I went about 5 feet in the air and came down on my stomach and out on the bridge there, and started to get up and looked up, and there was water and debris and fire and flames and just everything going up. We were 81 feet from the water line. Wow. The bridge was.
Yeah.
And boy, and just about the time I got to my knees, another explosion. Wham! Well, another torpedo hit us. Of course, we didn't know what it was. We were just out there, and you thought everything was fine. With the night was beginning to break. Some of the clouds was real dark. Couldn't see your hand at the first part of the night, and then the clouds began to break and the moon began to shine some.
Pretty calm sea.
Fairly calm sea, and so the second torpedo hit. We began to try to get somebody on the phones. Couldn't reach the engine room, couldn't reach the lookouts, couldn't reach anybody. The captain was sleeping up on the bridge. He had a cubicle right off the bridge that he spent some nights at. Had a bunk, and it blew him plumb out of the bunk. He had his pajamas on, and he came to the bridge, began putting on his shirts and his pants and all, and asking what happened. And of course nobody knew, and he called the fire control officer and told him to check and to reach the engine room, and nobody could. And somebody said, get the captain a life preserver, and I knew where they were, and I got one for him and me and one or two more. Anyway, the captain was giving orders and trying to find out what was wrong, and you could feel that thing listing. I mean, in 12 minutes from the time we were hit, we were sunk.
Yeah.
And you can just imagine it didn't poke around. And the first torpedo knocked off about 60 feet of the bow, and the next one hit midships in our ammunition storage. The fire control officer came back and said, "Sir, I can't reach the engine room," and we were still plowing on. They didn't stop the motors because they weren't told to stop.
They don't know. They knew something. I'm surely.
They knew that it wasn't right, but they didn't know what to do until they got orders in the engine room. The fire control officer came back and said, "Sir, can't get to the engine room, and it's fire all below, burning." And he couldn't get below decks. He said, "Sir, we're sinking. I recommend we abandon ship." And by then, you could nearly walk down the stack. I mean, that thing was laying down.
Wow.
And here we are, 81 feet above the water, just about to roll. So he said, "Well, follow me down to the next deck." And we left the bridge, headed down. We got to the next deck, which was one deck above the main deck. He said, "Pass the word to abandon ship." So everybody began to yell, abandon ship," by word of mouth, as loud as we could. And when he said abandon ship, that's what I thought he meant. I didn't stay with him. I'd heard that captain's going down with the ship. And we had been taught to go to the high side of the ship and get off of it as quick as we could, because the superstructure will roll on you and it'll go down and suck you under. I headed up holding the things up to the port side, and then there was the main deck down below. I couldn't jump far enough, so there was a hook where it had a gaff, a steel hook. And I bent down and grabbed that hook and swung out as far as I could and missed the first deck and hit the hull and then hit the water. And I imagine it's 40 or 60 feet from the time where I swung out. But it didn't hurt me. I mean, the hull was on an angle, and I just bounced and got in the water, and I came up. I'm sure I had my mouth open because I drank salt water and oil, and went to vomiting immediately. It wasn't 3 minutes till I started losing what I had. And during that 3 minutes, I was swimming.
Yeah.
I was getting away from that ship. And I got about 50 yards out and stopped and turned, and the moon had just brightened up enough I could see that old ship was headed straight down. The screws were still turning.
Huh.
And people still jumping off. And it was halfway down whenever I looked back.
Yeah.
And then you could begin to feel bubbles or something in your groin, and you could hear screams, you could hear racket, and then all of a sudden all you saw was bubbles and nothing. And here you are, and the only time you could see anything is when the wave would come up and you hit the top of the wave.
Yeah.
I was by myself, didn't know whether anybody got off or not, and I swam a little farther out and I saw this man in the water, and I swam over to him and up close and looked at him, and it was a good buddy of mine from Texas. He was from Iredale. His name was Josie, his last name. I called him Josie all the time. His name's Clifford. And I said, "Is this you, Clifford?" He said, "Yeah." "Is that you, Cox?" And I said, "Yeah." And he had been burned, and the flesh was falling from his face. His flesh burned, and somebody had put a jacket on him and put him over. And anyway, he didn't last any time, and I began to try to find other people, and so I saw a group of about, well, I didn't know, just a group, and I could hear them screaming and yelling, and so I swam over to it. And it was a group of about 30 men. From then on is whenever you just bobbed up and down, up and down, up and down.
Now, weren't there rafts that were loosely attached to the ship so that if it went down, they'd float
Yes,
off?
some of them did.
There's cargo nets.
Yes, cargo nets, uh-huh.
Where were you in relation to the equator?
Right nearly on it. It's one of the hottest places there is. It was on the Marianas Trench, deepest place in the ocean. I got with a group of about 30 men, made it through the first night, and the second day, well, I still had my shoes on. And one of the guys complained, said, "You kicked me." And I said, "Well, I don't guess I need my shoes." You know?
Yeah.
So took the shoes off, everybody did.
Now, were you connected with any? Did you have anything to hang on to, or you were just together? I know some fellows had those floating nets, and they kind of gather around those.
Well, we had a net, all right, but you couldn't tie yourself to it. You couldn't. It's just a central meeting place, maybe.
Okay.
You know, if you were staying together.
Yeah.
But some people didn't want to do that. They wanted to swim off. In a life jacket, you just bobbing up and down, and men close to you were getting attacked by sharks. I had one within 3 feet of me, taken down by sharks, and the tail end of the shark just come over and just covered me with water, I mean, completely. And you'd see them down swimming round and round down underneath you. You could see 20 feet deep or more, and they'd just slowly go round in circles and around, and then their old eyes, you could see their eyes, and every now and then they just, like lightning, they just come up straight up, you know, and hit somebody and take them down, and you'd see blood on the water, and you'd hear them scream, and you'd just know that there was another buddy that went, that's gone. And we had one of my friends there in the group decided that he had to have water, and of course we had none, and he took his life preserver off and said he is going below for a drink of water. All the water aboard ship was on the second deck. So you know, he thought that he had to go below for a drink. So took his life preserver off and dived down out of sight. Came back up and telling how good the water was and everything. And we got him back under control and put the life preserver back on him. And I tied my preserver in hard knots, about 3 or 4 to the string, just as hard as I could. Because I figured I'd go out of my head and do the same thing. So then he died just, an hour, 2, 3. You can't drink that salt water and live.
What does it do to you? I've always heard that, but I never really knew.
Chemically, it dehydrates you even more.
Okay.
It causes certain conditions in your body to change, and your tongue swells, and you're dehydrated. Your salt is in your system.
Yeah.
Can't tolerate it, and you begin. Well, he foamed brown foam through his nose and mouth, and died. Horrible death. Then you'd see fins, those sharks' fins, just circling. You see dozens of them. I don't mean 1 or 2. And you know, you just figured, well, you've had it. This is it. And you'd kick and you'd scream and you'd try to get away. And if you saw one coming close to you, you'd kick. And I don't know if that's the thing to do or not, but that's what everybody did.
Yeah.
And we noticed that if we could stay kind of in a group, they didn't attack them as much as they did a single. If you floated out away from the group, they were more apt to be bitten and eaten. And of course, the sharks they had bodies, 880 in all before it was all over. So they just feed. They just like a feeding ground. I remember we were the first thing that was in our minds was, did we get a message, SOS off? And nobody knew, but everybody was hoping that we did, and we figured within a day or so we'd see airplanes or we'd see ships. First day passed, nothing happened, and then men began to kind of hallucinate and swim off from the group, and some of them thought they saw islands, and there's one guy within 50 yards we was floating along, and he was swimming, and he wasn't coming toward anything. We said, "Ahoy there! Have you seen land?" And he said, "Yeah, I just came from it. There's an island on up. I just came from."
Yeah.
And he didn't even try to get with us. Then about the second or third day, we had a couple of officers with us, and they knew me, and they said, "Cox, we want you to be our guide." They said, "There's an island out here, a secret island, one that's not even on the maps, and it's for officers only." Mm-hmm. And of course, I said, "I don't think there's any island anywhere." "Yes, there are. We know. We've seen the maps and everything. We want you to guide us." So I took off, swimming away from the group, and probably went 100 yards or so, and I stopped and I told them, I said, "I'm going to go back." I said, "We're out here, and I don't know where I'm going. I don't think you all know where you're going, and with your permission, I'm going to return to where the group is." "Well, go ahead, but we're going on." That's the last time that they were seen or heard of or anything. I'd just probably been with them if I hadn't turned and gone back.
Were you getting kind of fuzzy at that time? Or?
There's times, the heat, and then it's so hot, and you'd splash water, and your life preserver was just, your shoulders were raw, just a constant movement on them, and then it's just burning up, and you'd pray for darkness, and then whenever it'd get dark, why, it'd begin to turn colder, and you'd shiver, your teeth would shiver, and you'd begin to pray for daylight and heat. Kind of like Texas, either too hot or too cold. I was scared to death all the time. I mean, I guess you can control your fear because there's not any place to go or anything to do.
I just wondered if you ever really got used to the fact that they're just out there.
No, not me. We got a buddy that said, "If you wasn't scared, you wasn't there."
Now the life jacket, would it make it hard to breathe? I mean, it would kind of pull up on you, wouldn't it?
Yeah. Mm-hmm.
I think
you'd have to adjust it, and you'd want to take it off because it's burning you. It was bleeding at the shoulders and rubbing blisters and everywhere all over your body where the salt and the phosphorus was burning you. But there's nothing to do. Just take it. And you couldn't sleep. Over the first day or two while you had buoyancy in the preserver, maybe you could put your head back, and if the water was calm, you could get a few naps, But then the water get a little rough, and your head come down, and every day it got higher and higher. Those preservers were supposed to last 72 hours, and it's already 110. They were waterlogged. In fact, one of the fellows on board the ship that picked us up swears that when he got one survivor out and took his life preserver off and threw it in the water, and it sunk. But
how low did you actually get in the water before they pulled you out?
Chin.
About chin. That's getting close.
Yeah, I couldn't go to sleep. I couldn't letting the head tilt, or I'd strangle.
Yeah.
You just have to hold that head up all the time. And we spread all over about 20 square miles, they said.
Wow.
There was a few rafts that got off. I never did see a raft. I never did see a boat.
Did you happen to see Captain McVeigh while you were in the water?
No. He
didn't
was in a raft.
He was?
Yeah. Lucky, he got down there, just started down, and it rolled just after I left him.
Yeah.
He dropped him into the water, and the superstructure missed him. He took him under.
Yeah.
But he came back. They released him, and he came back, and there was a raft. See, I could have been with him.
Yeah, you could have had a raft.
But then if he had drowned, I could have said, yeah, I'd have been with him.
Usually the captain, like you say, goes down.
Right, and he regretted he didn't. I mean, really and truly, it bothered him. He said, I wished I could have gone down with the ship. He was a good captain, and he shouldn't have felt like that, and then he did all he could do, and he's washed off. What else more can you do?
Yeah.
But one night, probably the third night, there's a guy was telling everybody to hush, be quiet, yelling, screaming. And everybody was quiet, and he said, there's a submarine right under us. Uh-oh. And he said, it's a friendly sub, it's one of ours, and they're going to pick us up. Yeah. And he said, just everybody be quiet, and I got my walkie-talkie. I didn't think he had one, But hell, you get to figuring, well, maybe he does. He thought he did.
Yeah.
And so everybody's quiet, and then he said, there's only one thing. He said, do any of you urinate in the bed at night? He said, one old boy said he did. This is the truth. He said, well, you can't come aboard because they don't allow men like that in the submarines. Then I knew it wasn't no sub.
Did you start to drift at all along that line?
There's times that I don't remember much. I'm sure I was either asleep or out of my head some way. In fact, when we were being picked up, well, I'll tell you about that. The happiest day of my life ever. We were down to about 10 men in our little group. Late in the afternoon, just before sundown, we heard a motor airplane. And we'd been seeing airplanes every day, but they were high and they couldn't see us. We heard that motor. And off on the horizon, just above the horizon, was an airplane going, I don't know whether it's east or west, but it wasn't coming toward us. And we screamed and yelled and kicked and splashed water, and it just kept going. Yeah. Out of sound, out of sight. And we thought, well, that's the closest anybody's ever going to come to us. I don't know, it seemed like maybe 30 minutes or an hour, heard the motor again. Looked, and it looked like the same plane. It's PBY. Yeah. And it was closer, going the other direction. We screamed and we yelled and everything, and it just kept going. Well, we thought, that's it, and they never coming this close again. But just before dark, I heard the motor again. Coming in, you could look at a PBY. And he got about a mile away from us and changed course and came right over us. Ooh. And you could see a guy standing in the door of that PBY waving to us and doing his wings. Wow. I'm telling you, my hair stood up. I had hair in those days. My hair stood straight up. Tears began to roll and chills began to come on my head, and I began to cry because we'd been found, and we knew that they was going to rescue us. Well, it got dark. Still no rescue. And our jackets were just getting more waterlogged. Just after good dark and all, looked up, and there was a cloud, kind of the sky was cloudy. And here was a light, a big round light from one of those clouds shining down into the sea. Looked like an angel, just had, you know.
Yeah.
And actually what it was, one of the ships had turned its floodlight into the heavens to give everybody hope.
Huh.
And it turned that light up, and we could see the light, and it hit those clouds, you know.
Yeah.
Reflecting off the cloud.
Reflecting off the cloud. And it saved, I don't know how many, but it gave hope to a bunch. And we said, well, they're coming. I don't remember much, but the next thing I remember was a bright light in my face. And a strong arm, two of them hands, pulling me up by my arm into a little boat. And they pulled me over and put me in that boat. And I knew that I was saved, you know. Then we went over to the mothership, which was a Bassett, the one that picked me up. The Bassett picked up more than any other ship. It picked up about 150 or 52 men. And
Let's get the numbers here. You had something like 1,200 men on the crew.
the crew was 1,197.
Okay.
Estimates was that when it sunk, it took 300 down with them, with the ship, which would leave about 900 in the water. Well, ended up 880 died, and 317 were picked up. We were just accidentally found. We were found by what we call the Angel, Wilbur Gwynn, and my picture here shows a drawing or a painting of the ship that the airship he was in, the pilot of. It's a Ventura bomber.
Okay.
It was used for patrol, and he was on submarine patrol whenever he accidentally, well, to make it even more accidental, they were flying high,
Right.
looking, and they had a brand new type of trailing wire antenna.
Yeah.
And it had a weight on it to keep it from flopping. Well, the weight came off, and it was flopping underneath that airplane. Well, he sticks his head out, and to look at that antenna, and directly there's a flash, and he looked, and it was an oil slick. Well, he thought it was a submarine. He jerked his head back in, opened the bomb bay doors, and made a circle.
He's going to bomb the submarine. He's going to depth charge the submarine.
That's what he told me. I talked to him personally.
Okay.
And by his mouth, that's what he said. And he got down there, and they got down about, maybe 100 feet or a little higher, and he saw heads and people in the water. Well, of course, he just completely, he shut the doors and broke radio silence and circled and saw that a lot of men in the water, and he could see sharks, and he broke radio silence. And then they had more foul-ups. The people back at base in the Philippines got the message and didn't forward it to his officer to send other planes out. Well, another plane that was piloted by Adrian Marks was a PBY, and he was close to where the position was.
Yeah.
Well, he came over, and he circled, and he saw what was going on, and so he landed his PBY in the ocean and started picking up singles out of the water. Now, I didn't see him. I didn't see that plane, and I didn't see Wilbur Gwynn's bomber. I was floating somewhere else.
Yeah.
But Adrian would guide him to where the men were.
Right.
And he'd come over, and then his men would stand on the pontoons on that plane and take them in.